There are two types of people in this world: those who heat up when pressure comes, and those who cool down. The ones who heat up, they panic, they react, they make emotional decisions that destroy everything they built. The ones who cool down, they see clearly, they move strategically, they execute with precision while everyone else is melting. This is not about being emotionless. This is about freezing your emotions while intensifying your spirit. A cold mind cuts through chaos like a blade through fog. A strong spirit pushes forward when heat would make you retreat. This is cold mind, strong spirit. And it's the mindset that separates dominance from defeat. Chapter 1. Heat is weakness, cold is clarity. Pressure exposes people. Some rise. Most melt. When pressure hits, most people heat up. Their emotions spike. Their focus dissolves. Their decisions lose precision. They panic. They react. They self-destruct. That's the truth no one wants to admit. Emotional heat feels powerful, but it's weakness in disguise. It feels like energy, but it's chaos. It feels like drive, but it's desperation. And every time you let yourself heat up, you lose control of your greatest weapon, your clarity. Heat is the enemy disguised as passion. You've been told your passion is power. That emotion fuels greatness. That intensity wins. Wrong. Passion without control is a wildfire. It burns everything, including you. Emotion without discipline doesn't create clarity, it blinds it. The person who can stay calm while others panic owns every room they walk into. Look around any environment where stakes are high: combat, negotiation, elite sport, leadership. Who wins? Not the loudest, not the most emotional, the coldest. Because the cold mind doesn't lose focus when the environment heats up. The cold mind converts chaos into opportunity. The cold mind executes when everyone else is reacting. That's the key. The mechanics of heat. Understand what's actually happening when you heat up. Your nervous system switches from logic to survival. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that plans, strategizes, and decides, starts to shut down. Your amygdala takes over, flooding your system with chemicals that scream "act now." You stop thinking and start reacting. You trade analysis for impulse. You stop commanding yourself and start obeying emotion. That's why people in emotional heat always regret what they say, what they buy, and what they do. Heat makes you impulsive. Impulsivity destroys consistency. And inconsistency destroys power. If you want command over your life, you must control the temperature of your mind. That's the discipline. The cold response. Cold is not emotionless. Cold is clarity under pressure. When external pressure rises, your internal temperature must drop. That's the rule. The more chaos around you, the calmer you must become. Cold mind doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care so much you refuse to lose your composure. You refuse to hand your control to emotion. A cold mind looks at chaos and says, "What's the move?" A hot mind says, "This isn't fair." One moves forward, the other collapses. That's the difference between progress and paralysis. Evidence across every domain. In every arena where performance determines survival, the pattern repeats. Elite athletes call it flow state. When emotion cools, execution heats up. They don't yell. They don't panic. They focus. They let the body perform what the mind has already trained. Special forces train to lower their heart rate under fire. Why? Because panic kills. A cold operator makes decisions from logic, not fear. Poker champions maintain ice. When opponents tilt emotionally, they bleed chips. The one who stays cold collects them. Master negotiators? They stay calm while the other side gets heated. The hot mind concedes to end discomfort. The cold mind waits and wins. Different fields. Same law. Cold wins. Heat loses. Every single time. Why heat feels right. Heat feels good because it feels alive. Anger feels like power. Excitement feels like motivation. Urgency feels like progress. But feelings lie. Heat convinces you to act now before you think. It whispers that reaction is strength and patience is weakness. It tells you movement equals control, even if it's chaos. You've been programmed to equate emotional intensity with effectiveness. It's wrong. Intensity without restraint is noise. Restraint without emotion is strategy. The best performers don't chase heat, they manage it. They use emotion as signal, not instruction. That's the distinction between amateurs and masters. Cooling is command. Cooling your mind is not suppression. It's control. You're not burying emotion. You're slowing it down until it obeys your command. Pressure rises. You breathe slower. Conflict emerges. You speak less. Chaos unfolds. You move slower, not faster. Cold mind is not about denial. It's about deliberate response. It's not about pretending nothing affects you. It's about ensuring nothing controls you. You can't lead, create, or compete from heat. You can only react. And reaction is the enemy of mastery. Building the reflex, you have a choice. You could train the hot reflex or the cold reflex. Every time you react emotionally, you're reinforcing the hot reflex. Every time you pause before reacting, you're reinforcing the cold one. You're either building chaos or building control. Start noticing your emotional spikes. Name them. Don't move yet. Let the initial surge pass, then act from calm. Do it once and it feels hard. Do it daily and it becomes automatic. That's how cold becomes your baseline. The temperature test. Here's how you test yourself. When someone insults you, can you stay silent? When plans collapse, can you stay focused? When you lose control externally, can you stay controlled internally? Every test of patience, every disruption, every emotional hit is a temperature test. Each one is an opportunity to prove that your power comes from composure, not reaction. You don't need calm conditions to stay calm. You need control regardless of conditions. That's mastery, the discipline of cooling. Cooling is not easy. It's discipline in motion. You'll feel the temptation to heat up, to argue, to rush, to explode, to prove. You must restrain it. You must learn to let the moment burn itself out while you stay untouched. Because emotion always passes. What remains is the damage or the dominance you created while it burned. You choose which one you leave behind. Cold doesn't mean you don't care. Cold means you care too much to lose control. You've invested too much to throw it away in a burst of emotion. That's the mindset that separates the elite from the average. The iron law. Remember this law. Heat weakens judgment. Cold sharpens it. Heat accelerates mistakes. Cold slows them into precision. Heat wants attention. Cold demands respect. You can't lead a team, build a legacy, or create lasting impact from emotional heat. You'll burn out or blow up. You must cool. You must steady. You must discipline the temperature of your mind until clarity becomes automatic. That's the foundation of everything else. Transition. You've learned the first rule of this mindset. Cold over heat, clarity over chaos. You understand that emotion under pressure is not strength, it's sabotage. You've seen that cooling isn't weakness, it's precision. Now that you know why cold wins, the next question is how to build it. Because cold-mindedness isn't a personality trait. It's a trainable skill, and you're about to learn the process that makes it automatic. Chapter 2. Cooling your mind is a trainable skill. Most people believe calm under pressure is a gift. They think it's personality, temperament, genetics. They're wrong. Cold mind isn't luck. It's training. It's a skill built repetition by repetition, like strength, endurance, or precision. You weren't born reactive. You trained reactivity. And the same way you trained it, You can untrain it. That's the key. Heat is habit. Every time you react emotionally, you're rehearsing it. Every argument, every impulse, every overreaction is a rep. And reps build reflex. You've spent years training your body to tense and your mouth to move before your mind engages. You've programmed the heat response. But habits can be rewritten. The same way you train chaos, you can train control. Cooling your mind is not natural. It's mechanical. You must interrupt the pattern, insert new actions, and repeat until the old reflex dies. The biology of cooling. Here's what's happening under the surface. When pressure rises, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight engine, fires up. Heart rate increases. Breath shortens. Muscles tighten. That's the heat. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that makes decisions, starts losing blood flow. You stop thinking clearly. You stop choosing. But there's another system, the parasympathetic. It's the brake, the cooler. It slows the body, resets the mind, and restores control. The switch between the two isn't mental, it's physical. You can flip it with deliberate, trained actions. This is how cold-mindedness becomes a skill. You learn to activate calm on command. The 5-second window. You have 5 seconds. That's your window between trigger and takeover. In those 5 seconds, emotion surges. If you do nothing, it wins. If you act deliberately, you regain control. Your tools are simple, but they must be executed immediately. Tool 1. Controlled breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 6. This slows the heartbeat, lowers adrenaline, and reboots focus. Tool 2. Mental labeling. Say internally, I feel anger. I feel fear. I feel frustration. This activates logic. You've moved emotion from chaos to language. That alone cuts its power in half. Tool 3. Physical grounding. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice 3 things you can see, 2 you can touch, 1 you can hear. Anchor yourself to the physical moment, not the emotional one. That's the system. Breathe. Label. Ground. 5 seconds. Done correctly, your physiology cools, your logic returns, and power shifts back to you. The drills. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your training. That means you must train cold responses before you need them. Start small. Train in low-stakes environments. Someone cuts you off in traffic, breathe. Someone interrupts you, label. A plan fails, ground. Each moment is a micro-drill, and every drill builds neural strength. You're teaching your brain, pressure equals calm. Conflict equals clarity. Chaos equals focus. After a few weeks, you'll notice something strange. The triggers stop triggering. The pause becomes automatic. You don't have to remember to cool down. You just do. That's progress. Controlled discomfort. Cooling can't be built in comfort. You must train under pressure to stay cold under pressure. That means deliberate exposure to controlled stress. Cold showers. Hard workouts. Public speaking. Silence in confrontation. Each one trains your nervous system to remain calm when intensity rises. Cold exposure lowers your stress threshold. When you choose discomfort voluntarily, involuntary discomfort stops controlling you. That's the formula. Seek stress. Stay still. Cool faster. You're teaching your body that discomfort is not danger. That's how you build calm as reflex, not effort. Training progression. There's a progression to this discipline. Phase 1, awareness. You start by catching yourself after the reaction. I lost it there. No judgment, just observation. Phase 2, interruption. You catch it during the reaction. You pause halfway. You slow the damage. Phase 3, prevention. You feel the emotion rising and stop it before it peaks. You stay composed. You remain deliberate. This takes weeks of consistent work. but the payoff is complete behavioral transformation. You no longer say, "That's just how I am." You say, "That's who I was." That's the difference between a reactor and a controller. The resistance phase. There will be a period where this training feels fake. Forced. Mechanical. Good. That's proof it's working. You're rewiring automatic systems that have ruled you for years. You'll feel the old habits fight back. Urge to speak, to react, to move too fast. You'll catch yourself mid-emotion, mid-thought, mid-action. That's the war between old programming and new control. Win enough of those small battles, and the old system dies. Lose them all, and it grows stronger. You have a choice. You can let emotion rule you, or you can retrain it to obey. That's the point of this chapter. Emotional cooling isn't emotional denial. It's emotional dominance. The cold mind ritual. You need a ritual that reinforces your cold baseline daily. Morning, expose yourself to discomfort early. Start cold, cold water, cold air, or cold silence. You're reminding your system who's in command. Midday, observe your internal temperature. Are you heated, distracted, impulsive? Slow your breathing, label your state, return to clarity. Evening, reflect. Where did you lose control? Where did you stay cold? You can't fix what you don't review. 3 checkpoints. Every day, 3 opportunities to train calm. That's how you wire cold into your identity. The 90-day rewire. Give yourself 90 days. That's enough to reprogram your nervous system. For 90 days, practice controlled breathing under tension. Name your emotions before reacting. Expose yourself to chosen discomfort daily. Reflect nightly. Do this, and your baseline state shifts. You'll notice it in your heart rate, your voice, your presence. You won't chase calm, you'll emanate it. You won't force clarity, it'll be your default. That's when you stop managing your emotions and start commanding them. Transition. You've now learned the mechanics of cooling, the drills, the physiology, the repetition. You understand that cold mind is not personality. It's training. You've seen that emotion can be controlled through systems, not slogans. Next, we'll clear up one of the biggest lies in this process. People think detachment means you don't care. They think cooling down kills passion. They're wrong, because the truth is simple. You can care deeply and stay calm completely. And that's what separates the weak from the elite. Chapter 3. Emotional detachment is not emotional death. People fear detachment. They confuse it with emptiness. They think staying calm means not caring. They think control kills passion. They're wrong. Emotional detachment isn't about feeling less. It's about being ruled less. You don't need to stop feeling. You need to stop obeying feelings. That's the key. Attachment is emotional slavery. Every time you attach your worth to outcomes, people, or opinions, you hand them your control. You say, "You decide how I feel today." That's not connection. That's bondage. Hot attachment looks like this. You want something so badly that emotion drives your every move. You panic when progress slows. You crumble when things go wrong. You spiral when people withdraw approval. That's not passion. That's dependency disguised as drive. It's not strength. It's weakness dressed as intensity. Emotional attachment makes your internal state conditional. Conditional on success. Conditional on validation. Conditional on comfort. Detachment breaks that condition. It returns ownership of your emotions back to you. You have a choice. You can be owned by emotion, or you can own emotion and use it as a weapon. The discipline of separation. Detachment is separation without disconnection. It's the ability to observe your emotions without collapsing into them. It's the mental distance between stimulus and response. You feel the emotion fully. You acknowledge it, but you don't act from it. You separate the experience from the execution. That's the discipline. Emotion says, I'm angry, strike back. Detachment says, I'm angry, but that reaction weakens my position. Emotion says, I'm afraid, pull back. Detachment says, I'm afraid, move anyway. Emotion reacts. Detachment decides. This is the difference between amateurs and professionals in every field. Amateurs express emotion immediately. Professionals convert it into strategy. You don't eliminate emotion. You elevate above it. The power of emotional observation. The mind can't master what it refuses to observe. Observation is the foundation of detachment. You must become a scientist of your own emotions. Cold, objective, precise. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Is it signal or noise? Does acting on it serve my purpose? This process sounds analytical because it is. Emotion wants immediacy. Detachment demands analysis. Each time you slow emotion through observation, you weaken its control. Each observation builds awareness. Each moment of awareness expands freedom. Eventually, you stop drowning in feelings. You start navigating them. You steer emotion instead of being steered by it. That's the real goal. The myth of passion. Society romanticizes passion. They tell you to follow your heart. They glorify emotional chaos as creativity. They mistake volatility for vibrancy. That's why most people live unstable lives. They've confused emotion for fuel. But real power doesn't come from heat. It comes from control. Cold passion is different. Cold passion is emotion filtered through discipline. It burns clean. It sustains for years. Hot passion burns bright and dies fast. Cold passion endures. That's why the calm competitor wins the marathon while the emotional sprinter collapses after the first mile. The people who sustain greatness are not the most passionate. They're the most detached from the noise of their emotions. They work whether they feel like it or not. They execute regardless of excitement or fear. It's not about feeling more. It's about doing more with less emotional interference. Emotional detachment in relationships. Detachment doesn't make you cold toward people. It makes you stronger with people. Most relationships fail because people bring emotional dependency instead of stability. They seek regulation from others instead of creating it internally. Detached people don't need others to fix their emotions. They regulate themselves first, then engage from strength. You can love deeply and still stay detached. You can care intensely and still stay calm. The difference is this. You don't collapse when people disappoint you. You don't lose yourself when they leave. That's real love. That's mature connection. Not need. Not control. Not emotional chaos disguised as intensity. Detachment makes you capable of love without losing your self-command. It replaces desperation with power. The fear of losing drive. The biggest resistance to detachment sounds like this. If I detach, I'll lose my drive. That's false. Detachment doesn't kill drive. It purifies it. When you remove emotional noise, what's left is focused purpose. No highs, no lows, just consistency. Hot ambition burns out. Cold ambition compounds. When you stop chasing emotional spikes for motivation, your work becomes execution, not escape. You stop depending on inspiration. You start depending on discipline. That's how you outperform everyone who needs to feel ready. You're not chasing readiness. You're operating from readiness. You don't need emotion to move. You move because movement is who you are. That's mastery. Training detachment. You train detachment through deliberate practice, the same way you trained reaction. Step 1. Pause before expressing emotion. You don't need to reply immediately. You don't need to justify, explain, or defend. The pause is detachment in motion. Step 2. Journal your emotions without judging them. Write what you feel, why you think you feel it, and what response would serve your goal. This moves emotion from chaos to clarity. Step 3. Expose yourself to small losses intentionally. Lose arguments. Lose control of minor outcomes. Lose comfort. Each loss shows you that your identity survives without emotional panic. Step 4. Reflect on the gap between emotion and outcome. Notice how many bad decisions came from heated reactions. Notice how much peace came from silence. This is how detachment becomes muscle memory. You're building distance inside your own mind. You're rewiring yourself for clarity under pressure. The paradox of control. Here's the paradox. The more you try to control emotions directly, the more they control you. Because obsession is still attachment. Detachment doesn't suppress emotion. It lets emotion pass without resistance. Control is not about force. It's about non-reactivity. When you can experience emotion without chasing or fighting it, you've won. That's when you can stand in chaos and feel nothing but focus. That's when emotional storms hit and you don't move an inch. You're not cold-hearted. You're cold-minded. And that's the distinction that matters. The identity shift. With enough practice, detachment stops being effort. It becomes identity. You stop saying, I need to stay calm. You just are calm. You stop fighting emotional reactions. They stop appearing. The new you doesn't require control. It embodies control. You operate from logic by default, not from emotion by impulse. That's when you've crossed the line from self-improvement to self-command. You're not working on detachment anymore. You become it. Transition. You've learned the truth. Emotional detachment isn't emotional death. It's emotional command. It's caring without chaos. It's connection without collapse. You've seen how detachment purifies passion, stabilizes relationships, and multiplies execution. You've understood that emotion is a tool, not a master. Now it's time to forge the second half of this mindset. Cold mind gives you clarity, but clarity alone isn't enough. You need strength that doesn't break under pain. You need a spirit that doesn't quit when logic says stop. Because cold mind sees the plan, but strong spirit executes it. Chapter 4. Build spirit through voluntary suffering. A cold mind keeps you steady, but a strong spirit keeps you moving. Without spirit, logic collapses under pressure. Without will, clarity means nothing. You can't think your way through every battle. Sometimes the only language the world respects is endurance. That's the key. Comfort is the enemy. Comfort weakens the spirit. Every time you choose easy, you confirm to yourself that your limits control you. You become soft, not in the body, but in the will. Comfort tells you lies. It whispers that rest is progress. That convenience equals success. That avoiding difficulty is intelligence. But you already know the truth. Every meaningful transformation in your life came from discomfort. Every victory was forged in moments when you wanted to quit, but didn't. Pain is the teacher. Discomfort is the classroom. And voluntary suffering is how you graduate from average to unstoppable. The role of voluntary suffering. Most people suffer accidentally. They stumble into hardship unprepared and crumble under it. You will suffer deliberately. You will choose your pain before the world chooses it for you. Voluntary suffering is controlled exposure to hardship. You seek difficulty to build endurance. You create resistance to increase strength. You train in adversity so you don't fall apart in it. It's not about punishment. It's preparation. You don't need to enjoy it. You need to execute it. That's the discipline. The ancient formula. Every ancient philosophy taught the same lesson. Comfort destroys character. Discomfort builds it. The Spartans trained barefoot on stone so battle would feel easy. The samurai practiced dying daily so life would not scare them. Stoics imagined loss and hardship each morning to stay ready when it arrived. Different cultures. Same principle. The human spirit strengthens through chosen difficulty. You can't think your way to resilience. You have to feel it. You have to earn it. The 3 domains of suffering. To forge strong spirit, you must train across 3 domains: physical, mental, and social. Physical suffering builds toughness of body and mind. Cold exposure, fasting, hard training, sleep discipline. Every time you ignore the voice that says stop, your tolerance expands. The body obeys the mind that commands it. Mental suffering builds focus and endurance. Deep work without distraction. Long hours of mastery practice. Reading instead of scrolling. Every minute you spend in silence against boredom is a rep for concentration. You're teaching your brain that discomfort is not danger, it's growth. Social suffering builds humility and courage. Difficult conversations. Admitting mistakes. Asking for help. Saying no. Each act of honesty that threatens your ego strengthens your integrity. You must train all 3. The body gives you discipline. The mind gives you direction. The social domain gives you authenticity. That's the triangle of unbreakable spirit. The breaking point. The most important moment of every challenge is the moment you want to quit. That's the threshold between your old self and your new one. When your body screams, stop. When your mind starts negotiating. When everything in you says, enough. That's not the end. That's the test. Most people quit there. The strong continue. The breaking point isn't where you fail. It's where you're built. You can't simulate that point in comfort. You must reach it. You must meet the voice that says quit and answer, not yet. Every time you push past that voice, you expand who you are. You don't just increase capacity, you redefine identity. That's how spirit is forged. The 30-day spirit-building protocol. You don't need a monastery or a mountain. You need a plan and consistency. For 30 days, choose one physical hardship: cold shower, fasted training, long-distance walk, early wake-up. Pick one and do it daily. Choose one mental hardship: no social media until noon. 2 hours of deep work with no phone. Daily silence. Pick one and execute relentlessly. Choose one social hardship. Have one uncomfortable conversation a week. Ask for feedback. Set a boundary. Pick one and commit. Track every day. No excuses. No negotiation. In 30 days, your comfort tolerance drops. Your endurance rises. And the voice of weakness gets quieter. You'll notice it: less hesitation, more command. Less fatigue, more certainty. That's spirit hardening in real time. The psychological shift. When you suffer voluntarily, something fundamental changes. You stop fearing pain because you've chosen it. You stop running from failure because you've faced it on your terms. You stop needing comfort because you've learned you don't need it to survive. That's freedom. You're no longer reactive to the world's challenges. You're proactive in creating your own. Life stops happening to you. You start happening to life. That's power. The identity of the forged. Spirit isn't about noise or bravado. It's quiet, steady, relentless. The forged spirit doesn't announce itself. It simply doesn't break. When chaos hits, you don't panic. When fatigue hits, you don't slow down. When doubt hits, you don't retreat. You keep moving. Not because it feels good, but because stopping is no longer an option in your operating system. This is not motivation. This is conditioning. The difference is everything. Motivation depends on mood. Conditioning ignores mood. Spirit is conditioning. You've chosen the hard way so many times that the easy way feels foreign. You've built identity through endurance. That's why nothing external can touch you anymore. How spirit and mind work together. Cold mind gives you clarity. Strong spirit gives you force. Without cold mind, spirit becomes reckless. Without strong spirit, cold mind becomes inactive. You need both. Mind designs the mission. Spirit executes it through resistance. When logic says stop, spirit says go. When spirit wants to rush, mind says wait. That harmony creates mastery. Every elite performer, warrior, or creator operates in that rhythm. Calm calculation, then relentless execution. You could train that rhythm daily. Pause, breathe, decide with mind, then act without hesitation through spirit. The daily mantra. When hardship comes, repeat this. This is the price of strength. Say it during the workout. Say it during the confrontation. Say it when life tests you. You don't rise despite suffering. You rise because of it. Voluntary suffering is self-respect in action. It's proof that you're willing to pay in discomfort for the life you want. That's the only price that buys freedom. Transition. Now you understand the second pillar of this mindset. Cold mind keeps you clear. Strong spirit keeps you unbroken. You've learned how voluntary suffering builds endurance, identity, and self-command. You've seen that pain is not punishment, it's the forge. But even with clarity and willpower, chaos can still strike without warning. And when it does, you need a battle plan ready before emotion has a chance to move. Because when crisis hits, it's too late to think. You must execute automatically. That's what comes next. Chapter 5. The Cold Mind Protocols for Crisis. When chaos strikes, emotion spikes. That's the default human reaction. Shock, confusion, panic. The heat takes over before logic even wakes up. But not for you. Not anymore. You train for calm the way others train for strength. You build systems that engage when emotion tries to take command. You create order before chaos arrives. That's the key, because in crisis, the untrained react. The trained execute. Why protocols matter. Crisis is the moment when every weakness you ignored becomes visible. It exposes you. It punishes hesitation. And it rewards preparation. You can't improvise clarity under pressure. You can't build discipline in the middle of disaster. You either have the system or you don't. That's why cold-minded people design crisis protocols before they need them. Not out of paranoia, out of practicality. They understand one law. Under stress, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of preparation. And if you didn't prepare, you fall hard. So, you prepare now. You build the reflexes today that will save your composure tomorrow. The crisis sequence. When chaos hits, you follow sequence, not emotion. The sequence overrides panic. The sequence keeps you in motion. There are 5 steps. Learn them. Memorize them. Drill them until automatic. Step 1. Physical cooling. Control the body first. Emotions live in the body before they reach the mind. Breathe in for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Drop your shoulders. Loosen your jaw. Unclench your hands. Cold water on the face if needed. Movement to discharge tension if possible. You're signaling to your nervous system, we are safe. We are operational. Until the body cools, the mind can't think. Cooling the body is command step 1. Step 2, situation assessment. Now you gather facts, not fears, not theories. Facts. Ask 3 questions. What is actually happening? What do I know for certain? What is speculation or emotion? This separates signal from noise. You can't solve a problem you've exaggerated. Step 3. Circle of control. Draw 3 invisible rings in your mind. Control, influence, concern. Control, what you can directly change right now. Influence, what you can affect over time. Concern, what you can't touch at all. Then act only inside the control circle. That's where power lives. Everything else is wasted energy disguised as thinking. Step 4, immediate action. Crisis rewards movement, not emotional flailing. Calculated execution. Identify one action that moves you closer to stability. One small thing within control. Do it immediately. Send the message. Make the call. Secure the environment. Small wins break paralysis and rebuild momentum. Step 5. Emotional processing after action. Feel later. Act now. Once order is restored, process the emotions. Right? Reflect. Release. Never during. Always after. That's how cold minds move through fire without melting. Real-world application. Let's test it. Crisis 1. Job loss. Hot mind says panic, complain, freeze. Cold mind runs the sequence. Breathes. Assesses. Controls what's controllable. Budget, resume, outreach. Acts immediately. Crisis 2. Relationship ends. Hot mind says react. Text, call, chase, blame. Cold mind says stop. Cool the body. Assess what's real. It's over. Circle of control. Behavior. Healing. Forward movement. Immediate action. Delete the thread. Take the walk. Start recovery routine. Emotional processing later. Crisis 3. Financial collapse. Hot mind spirals into despair. Cold mind calculates. Reframes. Executes. The calm operator saves what can be saved and rebuilds faster because emotion didn't delay action. The sequence never changes. Only the variables do. The 3-minute reset. When crisis strikes, time perception warps. 3 minutes of panic can destroy 3 years of progress. You need a reset drill that pulls you back into command mode instantly. Here's the method. Minute 1. Breathe slow and deep. No thinking, just breathing. Minute 2. Identify the immediate control circle. Write or say it aloud. Minute 3. Execute one stabilizing action. Physical, financial, or strategic. 3 minutes. That's all it takes to reclaim control of your state and your situation. Train it until instinctive. Pre-crisis preparation. Cold mind doesn't rely on memory under stress. It relies on systems. You must pre-build your own crisis manuals. Take 60 minutes this week and write out your top 5 potential crises. Job loss, health issue, relationship breakdown, financial emergency, family conflict. For each one, write, who do I call first? What are the first 3 actions? What decisions should wait? What resources are available? Print it, store it, memorize it. Because when crisis hits, you'll be too emotional to think clearly. Your protocol will think for you. That's professionalism applied to life. The role of cold practice. You can't expect to stay calm in real crisis if you never practice in simulated crisis. That's why elite operators run stress drills. Firefighters rehearse evacuation blindfolded. Pilots train engine failure until it's muscle memory. You can do the same in daily life. Create pressure simulations. Presentations without notes. Confrontations without preparation. Workouts past comfort. These aren't random challenges. They're controlled chaos. They teach your system to stay cold when intensity spikes. If you can stay composed in artificial stress, you'll stay unbreakable in real stress. That's the point. The post-crisis debrief. Once the dust settles, you perform a debrief. This is where experience turns into evolution. Ask 5 questions. What did I control well? Where did emotion interfere? What worked under pressure? What failed under pressure? What will I do differently next time? Write the answers. Adjust the protocol. Every crisis becomes data. Every review becomes armor. That's how chaos stops being trauma and starts being training. You don't just survive the next storm. You dominate it. The calm within the fire. They're the level of composure most people never reach. It's the ability to stay still while everything burns around you. You don't reach it through luck. You reach it through preparation. When you know the sequence, panic has nowhere to live. When you've rehearsed calm, chaos can't penetrate. People will ask how you stayed so collected when everything collapsed. You'll know the answer because you practiced it. Cold mind isn't emotionless. It's emotion-proof. You don't suppress fear. You neutralize it through structure. You don't avoid crisis. You dominate it through preparation. That's the difference. Transition. You've learned how to stay operational in chaos. You've built a sequence that prevents meltdown. You've seen that emotion doesn't disappear. It just loses control. But there's another level of power waiting beyond crisis. When your mind is cold, you start to see people differently. Not through emotion, but through precision. You start reading them like systems, not stories. You start predicting behavior, not reacting to it. Because once you've cooled your mind, the next skill is vision. And vision requires clarity beyond emotion. Chapter 6. Cold reading. See people clearly. When your mind is cold, your vision sharpens. You stop seeing what you want to see. You start seeing what's there. That's the essence of cold reading. Clarity without emotion. Hot Minds Project. Cold minds perceive. Hot minds see people through need, fear, or desire. Cold minds see patterns, motives, and truth. That's the key. Because power isn't just about action. It's about perception. You can't move strategically if you misread the field. Cold reading is the ability to read human reality with precision. No emotional distortion. No wishful thinking. No ego filter. It's not manipulation. It's mastery of awareness. Emotion distorts perception. Every human mistake begins with a distorted read. You trusted the wrong person. You misjudged the situation. You let hope override evidence. Emotion blinds you faster than ignorance ever could. When you're hot with excitement, you overlook red flags. When you're hot with anger, you miss opportunities. When you're hot with fear, you imagine enemies that don't exist. That's what emotional heat does. It bends reality. Cold reading restores the lens to its true alignment. No exaggeration. No suppression. Just clarity. You don't react to people. You read them. The principle of the observer. Cold reading begins with observation, not interpretation. The goal is to see before you think. Watch the body. Listen to the tone. Track the timing. Map the patterns. What people say matters less than how they say it. What they do consistently matters more than what they claim occasionally. Emotionally hot people listen for meaning they want to hear. Cold readers watch for signals that reveal what's real. This is the same discipline used by interrogators, surgeons, and elite negotiators. They don't assume. They assess. Detach emotionally, and your senses expand. You start noticing micro-reactions, small hesitations, tone shifts. You see lies land awkwardly. You see confidence leak through silence. Cold reading isn't mystical. It's trained perception unclouded by emotional need. The 3 levels of human reading. There are 3 layers to every human being: surface, signal, and structure. Most people stop at the surface. Surface is words, clothes, appearance. It's the performance people want you to see. Signal is tone, posture, pacing. It's what leaks through unintentionally. Structure is pattern over time. It's what never changes, no matter what they say. Hot minds fixate on the surface. Cold minds track the structure. You don't judge people by what they promise once. You judge by what they repeat consistently. Because consistency reveals truth. The rule of consistency. Emotionally reactive people believe words. Cold readers believe patterns. Anyone can act right once. Anyone can perform well under attention. But behavior under stress? That's identity. You want to know who someone is? Watch them when they don't think you're watching. Observe what they do when the pressure spikes. Words tell stories. Patterns tell the truth. When their words and actions disagree, always believe the actions. That's not cynicism. That's data. Neutrality is power. The less you want from people, the clearer you see them. Need distorts perception. Detachment clarifies it. When you want someone to like you, you ignore their flaws. When you want to win approval, you excuse red flags. When you want to be right, you filter out contradictions. Need creates blindness. Detachment restores sight. That's why cold readers always operate from internal sufficiency. They don't chase validation. They don't beg for understanding. They don't depend on others for emotional regulation. They simply observe. That's not arrogance, it's independence. You can't see the board clearly when you're one of the pieces being moved. Cold mind steps back, watches the game, and sees the whole map, the pattern of manipulators. Here's the truth. Emotional people are manipulable people because they respond predictably. Manipulators depend on hot minds. They exploit your impulses. They count on your emotional blindness. They praise you to disarm you. They guilt you to control you. They provoke you to expose you. Cold reading makes manipulation impossible. You see the tactic before it lands. You see the intent behind the tone. You see the angle and the kindness. You don't react, you record. You don't confront, you categorize. You feel the tug, you note it, and you move strategically. That's control at the highest level. Practicing cold reading. You can train this ability the same way you train muscle or mind. Start with low-stakes observation. Watch people in conversation. Notice posture, rhythm, micro-expressions. Who interrupts? Who hesitates? Who dominates? Then test in real interactions. When someone talks to you, watch your own emotions first. Notice when you feel the pull to agree, defend, or to justify. That's your emotional bias. Freeze it, then observe them as if you were studying a system. What's their tone? What's their pattern? Are they asserting power, seeking approval, or avoiding discomfort? Every interaction becomes training. You're no longer reacting, you're diagnosing. After each conversation, write down 3 things you observed that weren't in the words. Do this daily. In 30 days, you'll see things others miss. Reading without judgment. Cold reading doesn't make you superior. It makes you accurate. The goal isn't to judge people, it's to understand them. You can understand someone's weakness without hating it. You can see manipulation without taking offense. You can witness immaturity without needing to correct it. That's detachment. You're not their savior. You're not their enemy. You're an observer. From that clarity, you choose how to interact, how to protect yourself, and when to walk away. Judgment is heat. Observation is cold. Stay cold. Strategic use of insight. Once you see people clearly, the next rule is this: don't announce it. Don't tell them what you see. Don't expose your perception. That's ego talking. Ego wants to show power. Discipline hides it. Let people reveal themselves fully. You already know the truth. You don't need to prove it. Cold readers collect data silently and act quietly. They use insight as leverage, not decoration. That's what gives their decisions surgical precision. You'll know when to engage, when to withdraw, when to strike, and when to stay still, because you're seeing reality, not fantasy. That's freedom, the mirror effect. Cold reading others sharpens your ability to read yourself. When you notice others' patterns, you begin to notice your own. When you recognize manipulation outside, you detect self-deception inside. You start catching your own emotional leaks, your own blind spots, your own false performances. That's evolution. You become both observer and subject. You stop lying to yourself. You stop overestimating your control. Cold mind turns its lens inward until your perception becomes total honesty. That's the highest form of self-command. Transition. You've learned to read others with precision, without emotional distortion. You've seen how neutrality reveals truth and how clarity dismantles manipulation. You've trained perception as a weapon, not a weakness. Now, it's time to master the next level of command. Not reading people, pausing yourself. Because even the sharpest perception is useless if emotion still dictates timing. The next evolution of cold mind is control of tempo. Between trigger and response lies your power. Chapter 7. The Power of the Pause. Between stimulus and response lies the pause. And inside that pause lives all your power. Every mistake you regret was a reaction without a pause. Every success you've built came from using that space. Thinking, adjusting, deciding. That's the law of self-command. Pause first, act second. Hot minds react. Cold minds pause. That's the difference between chaos and control. The space between. Something happens. Words hit. Pressure spikes. You feel the emotional surge. The heat rising, the chest tightening, the impulse screaming, do something now. That's the moment that defines you. If you act immediately, the emotion wins. If you pause, you win. It's not about ignoring emotion. It's about freezing it long enough for the mind to retake the controls. You don't need 10 minutes. You need 3 seconds of discipline. 3 seconds to breathe. 3 seconds to think. 3 seconds to decide like a commander, not a captive. That's the pause. Why the pause works. The pause is biological, not poetic. When emotion spikes, your amygdala floods your system with stress chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, fear. If you act during that flood, you're not thinking, you're surviving. And survival mode makes poor decisions. The pause activates the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that reasons, calculates, and commands. A single deep breath can lower heart rate, reduce stress chemistry, and restore logic within seconds. That's not theory. That's neuroscience. You can train it like a reflex. That's the key. The 3-step pause protocol. You need structure, not slogans. Here's the protocol. Drill it until it's automatic. Step 1. Stop movement. Freeze your body. Stillness sends a signal of control to the nervous system. If your body stops, your emotions slow. Step 2. Breathe. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 6. No shallow panic breaths. Controlled breathing recalibrates the system. Step 3. Ask one question. What would cold mind do here? That question reframes your identity in real time. You stop being the emotional participant and become the detached strategist. That's how the pause becomes power. Practicing the pause. You won't find your pause in the middle of crisis if you never train in calm. Start with low-stakes triggers. Traffic, delays, annoying messages. Each is an opportunity to drill the reflex. Someone cuts you off? Pause. Breathe. Continue. Phone notification tempts you during work? Pause. Breathe. Continue. Email irritates you? Pause before reply. Every micro-pause strengthens the circuit. You're wiring your system for control. After enough reps, the pause becomes automatic. Pressure triggers calm instead of chaos. That's how mastery feels: smooth, silent, decisive. The combat analogy. In combat, hesitation kills, but so does uncontrolled reaction. Elite soldiers train the pause as the line between survival and self-destruction. They call it tactical breathing. Bullets fly, explosions roar, and they slow down. Heart rate drops. Focus narrows. Action follows clarity, not panic. You're not in combat, but life still attacks. Financial hits. Relationship explosions. Sudden losses. Same rule applies. You don't freeze. You pause. The pause is not hesitation. It's preparation. It's where you collect yourself before you strike back with precision. Emotional interference. The greatest threat to power isn't weakness, it's reactivity. Someone insults you. You fire back. Now they control your state. Someone ignores you. You chase validation. Now they control your attention. Someone doubts you. You overprove yourself. Now they control your behavior. You lost control the moment you skipped the pause. Reactivity is emotional slavery. The pause is liberation. You have a choice. React and lose control, or pause and reclaim it. That's not personality. That's training. The power of delayed response. The pause extends beyond seconds. It can stretch into hours or days. Not every battle deserves immediate engagement. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all. When you delay response, you change power dynamics. You become unpredictable. You stop being emotionally available on demand. People who can't delay responses reveal their weakness. They show they're reactive, impulsive, controllable. Coal mines wait. They let emotion fade. They respond on their schedule, not someone else's. Every delay builds leverage. Every pause builds presence. Silence intimidates. Stillness disarms. That's strategic power. How to measure your progress. Here's how you know the pause is working. Your reactions slow down. You notice impulses before they take over. Your voice lowers. Calm replaces volume. Control replaces speed. Your decision quality improves. You stop solving emotional problems with emotional actions. Your presence changes. People feel your steadiness. They trust your composure. This transformation is visible, not in what you say, but in what you don't say. You'll find yourself observing more, speaking less, deciding better. That's evolution. The pause and power perception. Power is not just action, it's timing. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who decides when to speak, when to move, when to act. Timing beats force. Every time, the pause gives you timing. You strike when others are still reacting. You move after emotion clears, not before. This is why leaders with calm temperaments dominate. They never rush. They never chase. They control tempo, and therefore control everything. That's mastery in motion. The 24-hour rule. For major emotional decisions, extend the pause to 24 hours. Never send a message in anger. Never quit in frustration. Never buy in excitement. Never reply in ego. If it's right today, it'll be right tomorrow. If it's wrong, time will reveal it. Hot minds fear delay. Cold minds use it as a weapon. You can't regret what you never react to. You can't lose control if you never surrender it. That's the discipline, the psychological payoff. When you master the pause, peace replaces panic. You become untouchable, not because you avoid chaos, but because chaos can't pull you in. Your nervous system stabilizes faster. Your decision-making sharpens. Your confidence grows quietly. People sense it. They realize they can't provoke you. They can't manipulate your attention. They can't access your emotions without permission. You become the calm center in every storm. That's leadership. Transition. You've now learned the discipline of delay, the control of tempo, reaction, and timing. You've built the reflex that separates emotion from execution. You've taken power back from every manipulator, every provocation, every pressure. But power doesn't end at restraint. Sometimes, power is expression. Not hot expression, but cold, strategic, deliberate. Because silence isn't always strength. Sometimes you must show emotion, but only when it serves your mission. The next level of command is not suppression. It's precision. Chapter 8. Cold Revenge. The only revenge that works. Revenge is a temptation. Revenge is loud. Revenge burns quickly and then dies. That's hot revenge. It feels satisfying for a moment. It creates noise. It creates problems. Cold revenge is different. Cold revenge is patient. Cold revenge is quiet. Cold revenge wins permanently. You have a choice. React now and feel loud. Wait and win later. That's the key. Hot versus cold. Hot revenge is emotional. It's immediate. It's impulsive. It satisfies the ego for an hour and destroys the future for years. Cold revenge is strategic. It's delayed. It's precise. It turns their shot into your advantage. Hot revenge telegraphs weakness. It announces that you can be moved. It hands opponents a map to manipulate you. Cold revenge removes that map. You become unreadable. You become dangerous. You don't need their permission to take your time. You don't need their permission to build leverage. You don't need their permission to stay silent while you plan. The principles of cold revenge. Cold revenge follows 3 rules. Rule 1, timing. Strike when they are least prepared, not when they expect retaliation, not when emotion screams for action. Strike when their defenses are down and your move is decisive. Rule 2, leverage. Use their actions against them. Exploit patterns they created. Turn their mistakes into your resources. Make their energy fund your expansion. Rule 3, detachment. Do not act to feel better. Act to shift power. Emotion is the fuel that burns plans. Discipline is the engine that executes them. It's not about being cruel. It's about being effective. It's not about vindication. It's about restoration of position. That is cold revenge. The framework, the 5 moves. You need a structure. Here are 5 moves to execute cold revenge without burning your future. Move 1, do nothing publicly. Silence removes their supply. They get no reaction. They lose momentum. Move 2, record and document. Collect facts. Save messages. Write timelines. Facts convert emotion into leverage. Move 3, build asymmetric advantage. Invest in what they cannot take. Grow clients, skills, reputation. Create assets that compound while they stall. Move 4, use third-party pressure. Influence systems, not people. Let contracts, institutions, markets, and partners do the work of correction. You amplify effect without revealing your hand. Move 5, reveal only when it ends a story. If you must expose, do it as the final act. Make the disclosure decisive, not reactionary. Timing converts exposure into closure and consequence. Repeat this sequence until the score is settled. You have a choice every time. React and fade. Plan and prevail. Practical examples. Someone betrays you at work. Hot response. Immediate confrontation. Loud email. Public shame. Outcome. Short relief. Long damage to reputation. Cold response. Document betrayal. Quietly secure clients. Prepare evidence. Escalate through proper channels. Present facts when the organization can act. Outcome. System enforces consequence. You keep credibility. You gain position. Someone spreads lies about you online. Hot response. Insult them back. Public fight, emotional posts. Outcome. The conflict grows and you burn attention on the liar's level. Cold response. Preserve screenshots. Optimize your narrative in places that matter. Use measured legal or platform steps. Amplify proof through trusted channels. Outcome. The lie collapses under evidence. Your audience trusts you more. Always convert heat into tools. Heat must be spent on construction, not demolition. Discipline beats passion. People confuse passion with power. Passion is noisy. Discipline is quiet. Discipline executes. It's not about being unemotional. It's about choosing when emotion serves the mission. You have a choice. Let emotion drive you or let discipline drive you. That's the difference between a short-lived victory and a permanent result. It's not about moral superiority. It's about strategic victory. The mask of success. The highest form of cold revenge is visible success. You take the slight, the betrayal, the sabotage. You invest those moments as fuel. You build something that outlasts the attack. Success is the revenge that needs no explanation. They think they hurt you. You grow. Years later, they look small. You built an empire from the slight. That is the silent, absolute outcome. You don't need their forgiveness. You don't need their recognition. You simply need to be relentless in your execution. Avoiding the pitfalls. Pitfall 1. Public spectacle. Don't publicize pain for applause. Spectacle dilutes leverage. Pitfall 2. Overreach. Don't escalate until you have secure advantage. Revenge without position becomes desperation. Pitfall 3. Moral bankruptcy. Do not burn your ethics for short-term gain. Long-term power requires integrity. Maintain standards even while you plan. Discipline protects you from each pitfall. The psychological edge. Cold revenge confuses attackers. They expect rage. They get silence. Silence forces them to second-guess. Doubt creases their strategy. You gain time. Time is the most lethal currency in strategic conflict. Use it to accumulate assets, allies, and information. Then act. That is how you convert harm into advantage. The test. Here is your test. Next time someone attacks you, do this. Stop. Breathe. Record the facts. Build one asset while they talk. Make no public move until it amplifies your leverage. You have a choice. This is the simple field test of cold revenge. Closing and transition. Cold revenge is not petty. It is not spectacle. It is method. It is timing. It is leverage. You learn to pause. Now you learn to convert pause into purpose. You learned restraint. Now you learn to direct that restraint. You mastered your reaction. Now turn that mastery into strategic outcomes. Chapter 9. Spirit sustains when mind wants to quit. Every mission has a breaking point. A point where logic says stop. A point where your mind, cold and clear, concludes the fight is unwinnable. That's the moment where reason ends and spirit begins. Because there's a limit to what the mind can calculate. But there's no limit to what the spirit can endure. Cold mind gives direction. Strong spirit gives continuation. You need both. The role of the spirit. The mind sets the plan. The spirit executes it when the plan collapses. The mind is the strategist. The spirit is the soldier. You can train intellect to analyze. You can train body to perform. But without trained spirit, everything folds under prolonged pressure. That's the truth. Most people don't fail because they lack skill. They fail because they lack endurance of purpose. They quit when the mind says enough. The spirit doesn't say enough. It says again. When the mind says stop, every battle, physical, professional, emotional, reaches the same moment. Fatigue sets in. Progress slows. Doubt enters. The cold mind calculates. This effort no longer makes sense. And logically, it's right. But logic can't measure grit. Logic can't measure heart. Logic can't measure what happens when a person refuses to fold. That's where the strong spirit takes command. The spirit doesn't argue with reality. It simply refuses to surrender to it. You don't need more data. You need more drive. That's the key. Training the spirit. Spirit is forged, not gifted. You build it through repeated exposure to controlled difficulty. You train it by deliberately doing what your body, mind, and emotions resist. Start with physical endurance. Work until your muscles demand rest and go one more set. Then mental endurance. Focus on one hard task without distraction until the urge to quit screams, and stay with it another 15 minutes. Then emotional endurance. Stay calm in tension without retreating to comfort, silence, discomfort, uncertainty. Every repetition is a deposit in your spiritual account. Every refusal to quit strengthens identity. You're telling yourself, I'm the type who continues. That identity compounds. The grit equation. Endurance equals purpose times tolerance. Purpose gives reason. Tolerance gives duration. If either drops to zero, endurance collapses. Purpose without tolerance burns out. Tolerance without purpose drifts. You build both. Remind yourself why it matters. Then stretch your threshold for pain, fatigue, boredom, and rejection. You have a choice. Live soft and break often, or harden daily and endure anything. Spirit is the product of hardening. The turning point. Every breakthrough comes right after your mind is given up. You've seen it. Athletes hit exhaustion, then somehow keep moving. Entrepreneurs hit failure, then find one last solution. Fighters get knocked down, then rise with new power. What happened? The mind broke. The spirit took over. You can't simulate that moment in comfort. You only reach it when you choose to stay in the fire longer than comfort allows. And once you cross that line once, you never forget it. You realize pain has limits. You realize fatigue is feedback, not finality. You realize most of your can't was won't. That realization transforms you. The difference between motivation and spirit. Motivation fades when circumstances shift. Spirit remains when everything collapses. Motivation depends on feeling. Spirit depends on decision. Motivation is noise. Spirit is signal. The mind looks for external reward. The spirit acts from internal standard. You could train motivation by adding pleasure. You train spirit by removing escape. Eliminate the option to quit. Then the spirit rises automatically. That's discipline at its purest form. Spirit under pressure. When everything breaks, plans fail, allies disappear, systems collapse. Cold mind stabilizes, but spirit sustains. Cold mind asks, "What's next?" Strong spirit answers, "Whatever it takes." In battle, cold mind manages the strategy. Strong spirit keeps moving under fire. In business, cold mind calculates losses. Strong spirit rebuilds after failure. In life, cold mind accepts pain. Strong spirit transforms it into progress. Without spirit, calculation becomes paralysis. Without mind, spirit becomes chaos. Together, they become unstoppable intelligence, calculated persistence. The inner dialogue. You'll hear two voices at the breaking point. The first says, "Stop. It's over." That's fear disguised as logic. The second says, "Continue." That's the voice of the spirit. Which one wins depends on which one you feed. Feed fear with comfort, and it grows. Feed spirit with continued action, and it dominates. Every time you obey fear, you weaken your will. Every time you continue despite it, you strengthen it. You have a choice in every trial. Feed the weakness or feed the warrior. That's the battle behind every battle. Real-world practice. You don't need extreme hardship to build spirit. You need consistent friction. Every day, find one discomfort and stay inside it longer than feels safe. Hold the plank 10 seconds more. Finish the paragraph after fatigue sets in. Have the difficult conversation you've been postponing. Wake up when the alarm rings instead of delaying. Small continuations accumulate into unbreakable spirit. It's not about pain. It's about proof. Proof that you can act beyond emotion. Do this for 90 days and you'll feel it. The separation between what your body wants and what your will commands. That's the start of dominance. The power of unreasonable continuation. The strongest force in the world is the one who keeps moving after reason says stop. That's the fighter who wins on the 12th round. That's the entrepreneur who rebuilds after collapse. That's the soldier who pushes through chaos when others freeze. You can't predict that kind of power. You can only build it through repetition. The world yields to those who won't yield to it. The system eventually respects persistence. Even enemies hesitate before someone who doesn't quit. They can't defeat what refuses to die. That's spirit. Measuring spirit. You can measure intellect with tests. You can measure strength with weights. You can't measure spirit until pressure arrives. Pressure exposes what's real. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of training. If your training includes quitting early, you'll quit. If your training includes continuation past pain, you'll endure. Spirit is the invisible metric that predicts longevity in every domain. That's why it's rare. Most people chase intensity. Few build endurance. Be the few. Transition. You've now forged the second half of the equation. Cold mind gives control. Strong spirit gives permanence. You can see clearly. You can endure endlessly. Now you must unify them, because clarity without endurance is sterile. Endurance without clarity is reckless. You need both in one identity. That's the next evolution. Chapter 10. The Cold Mind, Strong Spirit Identity. After months of discipline, after hundreds of moments where you paused instead of reacted, continued instead of quit, something changes. It's quiet, subtle, but permanent. You stop trying to act with control. You simply are control. This is identity transformation. The moment when cold mind and strong spirit stop being techniques and start being who you are. You don't fake calm. You are calm. You don't force endurance. You are endurance. That's mastery. Identity shift from doing to being. At first, self-control is mechanical. You count the breaths. You remember the rules. You talk yourself through restraint. Then repetition rewires the system. The cold response becomes automatic. The strong spirit becomes instinct. You no longer play a role. You become the role. Every identity is a collection of repeated actions. Change the actions long enough, and the identity follows. You used to be reactive. Now you are responsive. You used to be ruled by feelings. Now you rule them. You used to survive. Now you command. That's the identity shift, from emotional participant to strategic operator. The presence of power. People will feel it before you speak. You walk into a room, and the atmosphere shifts. Not because you're loud, but because you're stable. Your calm creates contrast. Your silence creates signal. Your composure demands attention. Power doesn't announce itself. It radiates through restraint. Cold mind makes you unreadable. Strong spirit makes you unstoppable. Together, they create presence. Others will start to ask how you stay so composed when chaos hits. You won't have an answer. They wouldn't understand. Because what they call control, you call normal. That's the new baseline. Detachment without distance. Cold-minded doesn't mean cold-hearted. You can connect deeply and still remain controlled. You feel everything, but nothing owns you. You love without losing your center. You work without losing your calm. You win without losing your humility. You've reached the point where emotion enhances execution instead of interrupting it. You use emotion like fuel, not fire. That's the secret. Emotional depth under full command. The world calls that rare. You call it standard. Freedom from circumstance. The highest form of power is internal independence. When nothing external can dictate your internal state, you are free. Most people live in emotional slavery. Good day, they're up. Bad day, they're down. One comment and they spiral. One setback and they crumble. Cold mind and strong spirit remove that chain. You respond to reality, but you're not ruled by it. Loss doesn't shake you. Pressure doesn't break you. Success doesn't inflate you. You move steady through both storm and sunshine. You remain the same temperature regardless of environment. That's true freedom. The identity code. Every identity has rules. Here's the cold mind, strong spirit code. Rule 1. Calm first, always. Before words. Before movement. Before decision. Calm first. Nothing good happens in heat. Rule 2. Endure beyond logic. When reason says stop, go once more. That's where your next evolution hides. Rule 3. Respond with precision. Every action must serve purpose. No wasted motion. No reactive noise. Rule 4. Speak less, observe more. Information flows to the quiet. Power belongs to the observant. Rule 5. Never complain. Never explain. Energy spent justifying is energy lost executing. Your results are your defense. Follow these rules long enough, and you don't think them anymore. You are them. That's identity programming. The unshakable core. Inside every high performer is a core that does not move. Yours was built deliberately. Cold mind. Forged in self-restraint, patience, and clarity. Strong spirit. Forged in hardship, persistence, and repetition. Together, they form the internal architecture that nothing external can damage. When stress rises, your mind cools. When difficulty grows, your spirit strengthens. When others panic, you calculate. When others quit, you continue. That's the formula. That's the fortress. You no longer need to talk about discipline. You embody it. You no longer chase motivation. You generate it. This is the state of unbreakable calm under permanent fire. The invisible advantage. You can't fake this presence. It shows in micro-expressions, tone, timing, and decisions. Cold mind, strong spirit people win quietly. They outlast louder competitors. They outthink faster ones. They outfocus scattered ones. Because while others react to emotion, they act from principle. While others get distracted by chaos, they execute with order. While others wait for external validation, they move from internal certainty. It's not arrogance. It's control. The invisible advantage is composure. The world mistakes composure for confidence. That's fine. Let them. You don't need to explain it. You just keep winning. Legacy through consistency. This identity builds legacy because it sustains through decades, not weeks. Trends fade. Passion fades. Motivation fades. Cold mind and strong spirit endure. They create businesses that survive markets. Relationships that survive storms. Bodies that survive stress. Minds that survive chaos. You're not chasing spikes of greatness. You're compounding steadiness into power. The world doesn't reward emotional explosions. It rewards consistent execution. That's what this identity guarantees. Daily reinforcement. Even at mastery, the maintenance never ends. Identity needs reinforcement. Every morning, brief silence before action. Every day, one moment of voluntary discomfort. Every night, review your reactions. Where did emotion try to win? Cold mind isn't about perfection. It's about awareness. Strong spirit isn't about endless grind. It's about refusal to quit. Those two habits, reflection and refusal, maintain your edge. Do them daily, forever. The ultimate realization. The cold mind, strong spirit identity is not about superiority. It's about sovereignty. You no longer depend on mood, opinion, or external reward to stay steady. You operate from internal authority. When people lose composure, you remain calm. When plans collapse, you rebuild. When setbacks appear, you adjust. When chaos comes, you lead. That's not luck. That's discipline made permanent. Cold mind gives you vision. Strong spirit gives you drive. Together, they make you untouchable. You're not immune to pain. You're immune to collapse. You're not free from challenge. You're free from emotional captivity. That's the ultimate level of power, mastery of self. We have reached the end of this book, and here's what you have learned so far. Heat is weakness. Cold is clarity. When pressure arises, you calm down. You don't heat up. You know that coldness is not a personality trait. It is a skill that can be trained through deliberate practice. You know that emotional detachment is not emotional death. It is truly caring without being controlled by emotion. You know how to build a strong spirit through voluntary suffering, so that when your mind tells you to give up, your spirit tells you to keep going. You know how to have crisis protocols in place before the crisis hits. You know how to read people and situations with cold clarity, while others see through emotional distortion. You know the power of the pause, the 3 to 5 seconds between trigger and response, where all your power resides. You know that cold revenge is strategic and effective, while hot revenge is impulsive and backfires. You know that a strong spirit sustains you when even the cool mind suggests giving up. And you know that after consistent practice, the cool mind and strong spirit become your identity, not your technique. So, this is your mission. Starting today, practice cooling down. The next time you feel pressure, pause for 3 breaths and ask yourself, what would a cool head do here? Choose a voluntary practice that challenges you to strengthen your spirit. Cold showers, intense training, extended fasts. Create your crisis protocols now. Practice pausing daily. In 90 days, you won't recognize your old reactive, impulsive self. You'll be calm, clear-headed, and unstoppable. Develop a cool head. Forge a strong spirit. Become invincible.